And Jimmy, I want to come to you. The Bible talks about the Battle of Armageddon. Everybody has taken that word and used it to apply to all kinds of situations that it really doesn't apply to. And I want to know, what does the Bible say is going to happen up ahead?
John, let me use the term the campaign of Armageddon instead of the Battle of Armageddon. And the reason I say that, Armageddon means the Mount of Megiddo, which is at the head of the Jezreel Valley, where all the death is going to take place in this campaign of Armageddon. But when you go to the Bible, Zechariah chapter 14 and verse 2, we see that all the nations of the world are going to be gathered at Jerusalem. So this campaign really begins in Jerusalem. How do they all come to Jerusalem? When you go to Revelation chapter 16, verses 13 to 16, it's talking about how Satan, Antichrist, and false prophet will do signs, wonders, and miracles to gather all the kings of the earth and their armies to Jerusalem. By the way, that's another evidence of the signs we were talking about earlier that'll happen during that tribulation period. Signs, wonders, and miracles, and we have a proliferation of them today. Satan, Antichrist, and false prophet will use these signs, wonders, and miracles to gather everybody into Jerusalem. At the point in time that this happens, when they start raping the women in the city of Jerusalem, when they start destroying the city, God in the heavenlies is going to tell his son Jesus to come back to the earth. You see in chapter 19, verse 11 in the book of Revelation, that Jesus mounts his white horse. In verse 14, it says, the armies in the heaven, that would be you and I, or Christians who were raptured out of this world, we come back with Christ back to the city of Jerusalem. Zechariah chapter 14 and verse 4. We come back and we step down on the Mount of Olives. Now, a number of things are going to happen, but the text there in Zechariah says the Mount of Olives, will split, making way for a valley to lead up to the Valley of the Mountains. If you've ever been to Israel, you stand in the Jezreel Valley, which is 1,000 square miles, 13 miles wide, 67 miles long, and you have to understand that is the Valley of the Mountains. Behind you, if you're looking to the north, you see the mountains of Nazareth, Mount Tabor, Mount Moreh. Over to the east, Mount Gilboa going down the Jezreel Valley. Over to the left, out to the west, you have the mountains of Carmel. So this Jezreel Valley is surrounded by the mountains. Napoleon said it's the most strategic battlefield in all the world because you can fight in the daytime in that 1,000 square miles, bivouac on the slopes of the mountains in the evening, re-strategize, and come to fight again. Well, Jesus Christ, when he lands in the city of Jerusalem, and all these armies that are gathered there, and I would say very conservatively that would be about 100 million soldiers. The United Nations says there's 197 nations. I'm taking it that by half, 100 nations and 1 million soldiers apiece. They make their way up to the Jezreel Valley. Jesus Christ, he's going to rebuild the city of Jerusalem. It's 8.5 square miles. It'll be 2,500 square miles. He rebuilds the Temple Mount. It's about 3 football fields in size. It'll be 1 mile square. He builds a temple on that Temple Mount, and then he goes up to the Jezreel Valley. There the Bible tells us in chapter 19, he speaks. I mean, it's not going to be a nuclear war. He speaks and they die. Chapter 14 of the book of Revelation, it talks about in verses 19 and 20 that the blood will flow as high as the horse's bridle. And many people ask me, do I think that's literal? So wait a minute. I very conservatively estimated 100 million soldiers. That's 600 million quarts of blood. You do the numbers, and that blood's going to flow 176 miles. That's about 50 quarts of blood for every foot. Once that Battle of Armageddon has been completed and Jesus wipes out all the enemies under the leadership of Satan, Antichrist, and false prophet, he goes, by the way, 176 miles from the Jezreel Valley to the place called Petra, where he has protected his Jewish people for a number of years during that tribulation period from the persecution. He then travels through the Jordan Valley, up the backside of the Mount of Olives, across the Kidron Valley, up through the eastern gates, goes into the temple, into the Holy of Holies. And there he sits down as King of Kings and Lord of Lords.